Well, hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. This is Rick Hansen and Ricky Brule tonight here.
Yep, here I am. I'm back again.
Well, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. And now we are talking about having a Happy New Year. So you are not going to guess what the second episode that we are putting out here for the new year is, but this is one that impacted me. And it was funny because it was all four of us talking: Ashley, Kurtenbach, Kelley Lovelace, Ricky Brule, and me, myself, Rick Hansen, and we talked about the 24 hours to live. And the interesting thing about the 24 hours to live is coming into the new year is it's not about dying, it's about living. And if you have a New Year's resolution or New Year's goals or whatever, this is a good one to listen to give you the thoughts about maybe start living life and enjoying every second that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what are some things that you have to look forward to in 2025? And it the question you posed was, yeah, it just really throttled me, like we knew what we were going to talk about ahead of time, but then we had the conversation and you get different perspectives. You get Ashley's perspective and you get Kelly's perspective. And it really gets you thinking and really makes you realize, like you said, like, let's not think so much about the dying part of it, but the living part.
Yeah, and it's funny because you aren't going to believe this, Ricky, and I forgot to mention this to you earlier when we were talking off camera here, but I had some friends that went to Sioux Falls last weekend, and they said we get 6 hours to listen to the episodes and some new episodes. They were going through it. They're on episode number 26, but I said here's some you need to listen to. And they listened to the 24 hours to live, and they listened to some of our others that I said you can skip and jump around. We aren't in an order here, but
Yeah.
I just and and the interesting thing is, and it's not good, but they were going to an unexpected funeral,
Oh,
and the episodes that I told them to listen to, I said I want you to tell me what you thought of them when you get there. Just I didn't know they were going to a funeral for one thing,
yeah.
but they said that tied in so well for what they were talking about because it was just a sudden funeral
Mm-hmm.
and it was young. And
Yeah.
these are the things that make me happy about the Don't Die Rusty podcast is we impact people without even knowing it. And it's funny how we've had some episodes that we make and then they're just like, these are these just affected me and I didn't even know how much they affected me when we were talking about
Yeah.
them. So
It is pretty incredible how some of these episodes have such an impact. And I think that's one of the reasons why we picked this one also is just the sheer amount of engagement we had coming from other people, just messages that we actually got. Because, you know, sometimes I'll talk to somebody in person and then they'll tell me how an episode
mm-hmm.
maybe impacted them, but they don't really chime in through email or social media or anything like that. And so in this particular one, we had people reaching out from all over the place, and we did actually. I think it was in a second episode. We read back some of the feedback we got from some of the Don't Die Rusty Nation. But yeah, it was just a great episode. We got a lot of feedback. We got a lot of participation, and that's really what we want. We want people to chime in and tell us.
Yeah, and we want people to. This is about thinking about life, and like I said, it was the most amazing episode because it not only got us thinking, it got other people thinking, and then I'm just going to say some of the comments were amazing because they said we were talking as regular people. We weren't any anybody that's professional. We were just talking about our life and how we've experienced these things through and through, and it was just interesting. And this is one that I hope you listen to at New Year's and enjoy. I hope you think about where your life's going and are you leading a good life, and uh, what's the don't live in panic, live in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, don't die, Rusty Nation. Have a happy new year.
Yes, everybody have a happy new year, and we will be talking to you later. So keep chasing your dreams, being the best you, and don't die rusty. Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure and life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, Don't Die Rusty Nation, Ricky and I are here on a Thursday afternoon trying to get ready for the next episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast. Hello, Ricky.
Well, hey, brother. How's it going?
Good seeing you in the middle of the day. Better than that night all the time.
Yeah.
You know.
Gosh, it seems like it was 2 minutes ago that I just talked to you. Which, I mean, relatively speaking, 8 hours, 10 hours, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, this next episode that we're going to put out on Tuesday has probably hit me pretty hard. I don't know why, because the question came up that. I posed the question, and you'd think you wouldn't hit you as hard because you're the one posing the question. But we had Ashley Kurtenbach, we had you, and we had Kelley Lovelace.
And by you mean Ricky, me.
Ricky.
Yep.
I'm looking at you. But anyway, we posted that. Anyway, I posted that question on Wednesday. And we got some responses, and I'd like to just read some of the responses because I don't want to go about our conversation because it went. I mean, we could have probably talked for days.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just get some water and some food, we'd been all right.
Yeah.
I'm going to read a few. I'm going to read a response. You can read one, and then we'll read another one. But if anybody gets a chance, please. The question was posed: if you had 24 hours to live, and this isn't about dying, it's about living anyway, but if you had 24 hours to live, would you be at peace or would you be panicked? And here's a few of the responses we got, and I know I've talked to a few other people that are going to send us some responses because it hit them too. Like, what would I do? And they wanted to have like an educational response. They didn't just want to be spontaneously emotional. So I'm going to read you the one that I guess I can say. Sierra Obler, my niece, she sent this one and said, I would say I would become very nervous considering as soon as I listened to the question, my heart rate went up instantly. Though my first thoughts were about Coy and Troy and asking myself if I've done good enough job for them to continue being successful in life. It wasn't anything about money or I've done everything in life I wanted to do. It was all about making sure they would be okay. And then she went on to say, now, if you gave me a date and said, Sierra, you have until this date, I know my brain wouldn't have become as nervous because I would have thought about all the things I would still get to do. I'm a planner and an organizer, so I know I would instantly begin prioritizing things to do all that. And that's why I posed the question of 24 hours, because if you have a date, I mean, you could say 6 months from now, you know what I mean? But when it's a short amount of time, things run through your head in a different pace.
Yep.
And that's what I really wanted to. Well, that's why I posed the question, which is interesting how you read yours, because I think it was interesting. All of our in our discussion and in these responses.
Yeah, absolutely. This one we got from Matthew Fry, and it's funny. You don't really know who's listening. And, I used to work with Matt back in the day, met him at Gander Mountain many years ago. We're probably talking 20 years ago now, somewhere in that ballpark. But he said, in response to your last question, my goal is to be at peace with life if ever faced with that situation. A couple years ago, my family and I made the decision to live our lives fully, to put effort into experience. We packed up and moved west to pursue this. When I'm gone, my kids won't remember exactly how much money was in the bank, but they will remember if I was there for them or not. They will remember the hikes we take, fish we catch, animals we hunt, and wonderful views that God has given us. I really enjoy the inspiration and perspective your show gives. Thanks, Matt. And yeah, thanks, Matt, for that. Really appreciate that. And it just makes me feel good knowing that we're inspiring people. And, I see everything that he's doing. He moved out to Wyoming, and, he's doing just that. He's out there fishing there. He's posting pictures of just the beauty. There doesn't necessarily have to be
Hmm.
any specific thing going on. It's just, the landscapes and everything. And I think that's amazing. When I first heard that he was packing up and moving out there, I just thought, man, that I'm envious of that. And so, I hope that we can do the same. But thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
And definitely, Matt. I mean, like Ricky and I have talked before, sometimes it gets hard to push, just keep on pushing through. You think you're spinning your wheels in mud, but when when we get a response like that, it just makes us feel like maybe we do have a little traction here.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And what I'll do one last one here, and it was from our friend, an official sober cowboy, Lacey Singleton, and she said, I would want to be with all the people I love in my favorite place in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, share a couple of good meals, and be with my animals. I would want to laugh and play cards, pick some flowers to look at. I would be at peace knowing I was going to be reunited with the Creator and enjoy eternal peace and love with Him. And then she also added, oh, and have good music on the whole time in the background.
Yep.
And thank you so much, Lacey. You are an inspiration to many, and you are certainly an inspiration to us.
Absolutely.
You are a go getter, and we wish every. Thank you so much for the response, and you know, Ricky, I just want to say, out of all of our responses, none of it was about money.
Right.
It was about moments,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked in many episodes, probably more in the last 10, 15, but I would say all of them actually, that it's always about the moments. It's not about the money. It's about the memories. It's about the peace that we get with what we're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
And and like I said, please keep listening because this episode hit me kind of hard because you just want to make sure I want to get the word out that it's all about the moments. I think you'll enjoy it. I I think the listener will be able to look within themselves and say, what would I do?
yeah. Welcome to 24 Hours to Live.
Here we go. Well, Don't Die Rusty Nation, we are here with another exciting episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast. And this is going to be an interesting conversation, I think, because I'm here with my, as usual, co host, Ricky Brule.
Hello.
And,
Hello, everybody.
and we have Kelley Lovelace. We have talked to him before, if you remember the THP, Kelley Lovelace.
PHP. Howdy,
And
howdy.
and then I have beside me the one and only Ashley Kurtenbach.
Hey, hey.
And
Woohoo.
and all these people have influenced my life in one way or another. And I've had this question, like, it's funny when I go get ready for hunting season, or or going on trips. Like I'm going to be leaving for 10 days here to go on a elk hunting trip, and start getting philosophical about a little more about life and living life to its fullest. So I asked these guys some of the questions. I've been asking other people questions about living, because when Key and I did the range podcast and started talking about doing this podcast, my philosophy was not to die, but to live life to the fullest. And I'm reading The Advice of Dying and Living a Better Life by the Dalai Lama at the moment, but and had other questions, and I just like reading philosophical stuff. So, and I had some philosophical questions asked, but then I started talking to myself, and I do that, but I wasn't arguing. I'll tell you guys that. But I've always had this mantra of, and this is from William Wallace: every man dies, but not every man lives. And that struck me a long time ago about we need to live the best life we do. And then I start, like I said, I like to read philosophical stuff. So I was reading some of the Stoics literature, and that's where I've got every man dies. I mean, every second that passes is owned by death. And that was by Seneca. And I was hunting last weekend, and I had that book, and I was just telling you about, and it said, if you are not aware of death, you will fail to take advantage of the special human life that we already have attained. And I got thinking about that. And, you know, if we don't realize that our life is limited, we are going to die. Because I read this deal about Americans, and a lot of people like procrastinate or pass it off. They don't want to think about it. And and it's not that I'm infatuated with death. It's that I want to live the best I can till that time comes. So here's where I'm going to go with this, because my question that I ask all these guys, ask all the ones here tonight and a few other people, was, if you had 24 hours to live, and you knew that at the end of that 24 hours you weren't you were done. I mean, this life on earth is done. Would you be panicked because you feel like were you didn't do enough, or would you be at peace knowing that you might be going to I mean, we don't know who we are, but we are hopefully going to a better place, but you know, or I have my own thoughts about this stuff. And Ashley and we went hunting last year in Montana, and we've kind of talked about this stuff in depth on our car rides. Yes, we jumped out of cars and did funny stories too, but we had these conversations, and Kelly and I have, and Ricky and I have, because these things are interesting to me. But I want to know what you guys think, and then I'll add what I think, because I've been talking here for now probably 5 minutes, and probably people say, shut the heck up, Rick. So where do you guys want to go? Ricky's sleeping.
Sorry, hang on. Wait, I'm just kidding, but
So if you guys had 24 hours to live, in where would you be? What mindset would you be in?
Kelly, you're the guest.
Okay. This is funny because when I was out west in the Badlands of North Dakota, you get to the grind part of a hunt where you like I'd missed a deer. We'd gotten on another one and lost him. Couldn't figure out where he went, and you get into the last morning. I'm laying in my cot in our tent, and I said to myself, I don't really want to get up. I'm sore and I'm tired. And I don't know if you guys have ever thought that way, but I'm sitting here going, I think I'm just ready to go home. And then the thought hit me, what if this was the last time I could ever do this? If I knew this was the last time, would I be laying in this cot? No. So get up. Get out of here. Get going, man. So that's what pushed me and motivated me is you never know. It could be your last time. Any of these steps we take could be our last step. I got a really good college buddy who used to tell me, we're all one slip away from banging our head and being gone, right? Like,
Yeah.
so 24 hours, it wouldn't panic me. I would want to spend the time, I think, with the people who are closest to me. I'd want to spend time with my wife and my kids. And I got two grandkids, so I'd want to spend time with my two grandkids. And I'd try to figure out how to just milk every minute pouring into those relationships with the last time that I had on this earth. I think that for me, um, my wealth is not found in the things that I have, but in the people that surround me. Right.
Oh,
And
definitely.
so that's what I would want to do. It wouldn't be a panic. The sadness would be that I'd be separated from them, but I also believe that I would just be separated from them for just a moment, and it would probably be quicker than I thought,
Mm-hmm.
because of the difference between a mortal world that's stuck being a servant to a clock versus eternity, which I think we're all eternal beings, and so I have a peace in that I'm going to see him again, but the separation would sadden me in the moment. Does that make sense?
Oh, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely
The
does.
the inevitable separation that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would be pouring into the people around me, and I don't think it would be a panic for me. It would probably make me more intentional and more focused, which is sad to say because I should be living that way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point that I'm trying to get across here is I don't want people to be, I mean, I don't want to be personally because I probably want to go out and have people, I'd maybe like push to think like this and think, like if you don't let these times pass, like these moments that you might not ever have again, don't let them pass without uh, realizing what you have. Like, and it's not that I'm scared. It's not because I believe, and that's helped me out a ton, and you've helped me do that.
Mm.
But I feel like I've missed something if I don't see that sunrise every morning. And it's I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like it's just a good part of the brand new day, and for me personally. So, uh, what do you think, Ashley?
Well, what you're talking about, living life to the fullest, you definitely do. You have for a long time. Well, we kind of talked about this. He asked me, he's like, if you had 24 hours, what would you do? I said almost identically what Kelly just said. I said, well, you'd think that you'd be like, let's go jump out of a plane or something and go skydiving. But the reality is, I'd be like, well, I would just start calling everybody when the countdown was on and being like, I gotta see you. I couldn't imagine. I've lost so many people too suddenly in my life. I think we all have. And to be able to have that closure, like, yes, it'd be sad, but can you imagine if you look back on the people that you've lost, if you could actually say goodbye? It'd be
Mhm.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Have one last conversation, a final one, a good one, not have any regrets going to the grave where you could patch something up or whatever. That thought would be incredible. I wish we had that opportunity. But same as Kelly, like, I don't think you have the time, like a concept of time after you die. Like you said, you
Mhm.
thought it would be rather short, probably in perspective of the time you would actually leave physically this world onto the next and then get to see your loved ones again, which, like, also I said we get to see them again someday, right, in a better, what
Yeah.
we hope is a better place. And that's all I would do, because that is the one thing I think that as you get older too, you really realize what makes you happy and makes you who you are and makes you whole is the people around you, family, friends, and that's literally everything to me. It's the relationships, and that's what I would want. I'd want to
Mm-hmm.
have every second I could squeeze people till the last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think when Rick first asked me that question, there was a lot of things that went through my head. My initial immediate thought was, okay, I got to figure out how do I make sure that my family's taken care of. My wife and my kids. That's like the first thought, right? But then you think about you only got 24 hours, right? So how do you navigate that? Then I started thinking, well, gosh, okay, so that puts it into perspective, right? Like I need to figure that out now so that I don't have to worry about that. So then when that day does come, then you can spend that time with your loved ones. And then I'm torn between whether you tell them or if you just, or you don't tell them knowing that's going to happen, but then you just take that time to reach out and have that conversation with them just about good times, or just have a really nice conversation instead of the conversation having to be surrounding the fact that you're going to be gone, or the sadness that's going to come with that conversation that you're going to have with that person or that time you spend with them. So I'm torn between that. I don't know whether I would want to tell them that, people in that moment, or if I would just, try to enjoy time with them the best that I can in that small amount of time. And then, that's just it. But, and then, Rick had, I'll let Rick tell the story, but there was somebody else that Rick had talked to that had a really good plan, and I don't want to. I was like, oh, maybe I would do that, but I wanted to talk about what my initial thoughts would be as to what I would do.
And now I forgot what I said.
I have a question for you, Ricky. So you said that's an interesting concept, whether you
Oh,
tell them or not that this
Mhm.
is your last 24 hours. But I don't know who you would choose to tell and who you would choose not to. But don't you feel like after you pass, they'd be like, why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he tell me? He had a chance. How would you answer that then after the fact?
Well, and that's part of kind of, I think, what Rick had said. The person that he spoke to said they'd
yep.
make a video,
Yep, I remember
and
that now.
so I guess I would try to leave a note, you know, basically explaining,
Mm.
this is why I didn't, because I wanted to enjoy the time that I had left with you without it being this, a somber moment in knowing that I'm going to be gone, or, you know what I mean? Something like that. But I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Who's to say that any of that would happen
Yeah.
in the actual event? How do you react to that? You know what I mean? Under that
I,
type of stress. So,
I think the decision, and I'm sorry to butt in, but I think the decision
No.
to tell or not to tell would have to be you either tell everybody or you just don't tell anybody,
Yep.
mhm.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
And I kind of lean towards not telling anybody
Mhm.
because of what Ricky just said. Like I don't want them to start my funeral while I'm still walking, right?
Right.
Like, and that's kind of the way it would feel. I think because they'd all be so sad that I only had 24 hours, and I want to laugh and I want to joke around and I want to see smiles on people's faces, and so I don't think I'd tell anybody. I think I'd keep that all to myself. And then maybe like that was a great idea to leave a note or to leave a video, to make a video, I don't know.
well,
That's an interesting question.
because it was interesting because it's my friend Eric. I've known him for a long time. I call him Mercury because he moves so fast. But now we're all old. I don't know how I got the name. I mean, he calls me Mercury. I call him Elvis, but that's besides the point. Anyway, what he said was that was interesting. It was kind of like I don't remember the movie. Where the husband died and he just kept on sending notes to the wife. Like and he said, I'd make a video like it. And I wouldn't want him to see it till after the grieving period because it's the grieving period, but I'd want them to see it later and know that I love them and know that I cared and know that they were a big part of my life, and I think that when he said that, it just like, huh, I never thought about that. And then I told Ricky, and I'm glad he reminded me of that one because I wrote down a lot of other stuff, but I forgot about that. But
Mhm.
I got thinking and I thought, you know what? This is funny. I've always thought about this, and I don't know if you've ever had this happen, Kelly, because you're the THP, so you've been in a few more. You've had a few more funerals probably than I have. But there's two things I want to say though. The one thing is I always thought about, when you go to a funeral, they do your eulogy. I'd want to do my own eulogy and say, hey, it's great to see you here. And if you're not here, then too bad you didn't hear what I had to say about you, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Ashley, do you remember that time that I dressed up in that green suit and you made fun of me in my 4-wheel drive Crocs? Because I think I just look at it in the manner of like, I know we're trying to remember the person, but that you were, but I think it's funny, not funny, but I think it shows that you cared about those people if you wrote your own before it happened, and then they hear it when they came, because we're all sad, but that's because of us and what we may not have that conversation again. So let's have these conversations now,
Mm-hmm.
and and the other thing is I wish some days, because Ashley had to bring up this thing about I start looking at this stuff as I grow older. I wish I could
Mm-hmm.
have thought like this when I was younger, but I mean, when you're young and you're indestructible. I mean, that you can do anything, and nothing's ever going to happen to you. I mean, that's what you feel. You know what I mean? I can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Ricky and I had a fight. I'm just using this as an example, or Cindy and I would want them to know. I'd want to make that peace before, so you don't have those questions. Like, I don't want to leave anybody without any question, with the question of how did you feel about me,
Mm-hmm.
instead of that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But we, you know, I just want to think about how we can. Why do we have to go to these places? Here's the other thing about death and dying, and I took a class when I was in junior high about death and dying, and it was probably one of my favorite classes. But why do we have to go to funerals to get closer to people? That it's funny how that happens. Like, people go to funerals and then they say, well, we should get together again, and then it goes another 10 years and somebody dies or whatever, and then they have another funeral, and, well, we should get together. Why does why don't we think about these things more? Why is our lives becoming so busy that we don't think about the important people in our life? I That's why, I mean, I think Ricky, and I don't know if Ricky has, I know Ashley has. I think and like there are times in like on a Saturday, or it depends upon the day, but I just scroll through my phone at and find people in my contacts on in my phone, and I'll text them and say, hey, you're amazing and you're important and thank you for being in my life, kind of thing, out of the blue. I might not have talked to you for a month, but at least people know that you're really thinking of them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And but why don't we do that more? I mean, as a society.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
And I've done that for the last, oh man, I don't know how many years. Like when I start thinking about somebody, just one quick text, because I think in our heads we say, oh, I'm thinking about them, but I don't text them and I don't call them because we think it's going to take time because I haven't talked to them for so long, and then to catch up it's going to be an hour later,
Yeah.
and everybody's busy, like you said. And I think it's a difference between being proactive and reactive.
Yep.
Funerals, reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's too late and you're trying to you scramble because then you see death in front of you
Mm-hmm.
instead of being proactive. So another question, not to go back, but this kind of whatever ties in. But for all of you, and maybe this is a male female thing, it totally could be, because my friends would be pissed if I did not tell them I was dying. And they would be. And not because we couldn't cherish that moment, because they'd really, really, really want to absorb it and be 100% present. And also, then my next question to you would be like, okay, so Rick, or Kelly or Ricky, you're going to get together with all your family. What are you telling them to get there? I need to see you. It's imperative I see you today. I I need to see you in the next 12 hours. Okay, are you okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Lies. Everything is not fine. You're on a countdown. So then how, if they have that relationship with you, yes, I can totally appreciate not having total sadness, but I really think that depends who you surround yourself with, but really being present and indulging every second with those people, and them also knowing and making it a priority. Because I would never expect, if I said, hey, to my friend Kelly, Kelly, you need to come here right now. She'd be like, are you okay? Is this an emergency? I'd be like, well, not really, but I do need you to be here. And she would say, well, I have this thing with my kids. How I can't fight that, right? Because she's my friend, right? If she had a family thing, I would say, no, you gotta just don't worry about it. Don't handle it. And then if I did not tell her and she couldn't break away, she would never forgive me. Like, that's just one. But I have multiple friends I could say that about, like multiple, like close friends. So I guess, what would you say to get them there, and then for them to be proactive versus reactive after you're gone, at after your passing?
Yeah, I think that I think either way you go, I don't think you can please everybody. I think you're going to have, either way you go, you're going to have a mix of people that are going to be upset about it and a mix of people that understand it. And and maybe this is like a little bit too harsh for me to think, but like your friend that would be really mad about that, well, it's like, guess what? I'm the one who's dead. And whether you forgive me or not is on you, not on me. So again, that wouldn't concern me so much, but I hear what you're saying though. It does, and that's where I'm torn. You know what I mean? That's where I'm like, man, I don't know what I would do. I think it would be kind of a last minute thing. I don't think I think ultimately when it would come down to it, there's no way I could have a legitimate conversation with my wife and probably not just completely break down. You know what I mean? And then
Would.
right then and there, something's wrong, right? Like you can't deny that there's something's wrong, or and then also the thought that you're about to be at the pearly gates here. I don't know that you want to be throwing lies out right before you're about to go. So that's also that's also another area where you're like, okay, well, I was going to try to not tell you, but since you asked me, I can't lie. So even though God forgives sinners, but yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting question, and I love it because it can go a lot of different ways, and I think everybody would have a different kind of a different outlook on it. But
Give us some wisdom, Kelly.
Oh wow. So as I've gotten older, this thing you're talking about, like, there's got to be some intentionality, and I love what you just said about proactive versus reactive, right? And so these are decisions that I've already made in my life that I'm going to pour into my grandkids, and I'm going to spend as much time with my kids as I possibly can. My kids are all grown. I've got one at home. He's a senior. He's going off to college. Um, so I'm very intentional about those relationships. And then there's people in my life that I like. Technology's been really good to me in this regard. I can't stand it because anybody can get a hold of me at any time, anywhere, any place, just about, right? Like, I've got to dig myself in the deepest, darkest canyon with the tallest mountains around me for my phone not to work. But on the flip side of it, I'm able to connect with people, right? And so Rick's one of those guys. I might not connect with him every day, but he's getting a verse from me, and we're talking through text at least once a week. right? And I've got other guys like that where we're making that connection. I'm being intentional about it. And my hope is that they realize that in that moment, I'm thinking about them and I'm praying for them and that I love them and they mean something to me. Like that relationship's important. And so I do that with my kids. I do that. I mean, there's quite a few guys that I'm connected with, but technology's helped me to do that. So I've already been intentional about those things. And I mean, I've got some really, really, really close friends that I would want to spend some of that time with those last 24 hours. But if they weren't able to make it, and I know this sounds terrible, right? Like if they weren't able to make it, I wouldn't force them. Now they'd regret afterwards that if I had known, I would have. But see, that's the problem. Do
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like that's the
Oh,
problem
yeah.
right there. If
Mhm.
I had known, well, why aren't we doing that anyway? Why aren't we trying to make time, carve time? We can't make it. We got to carve it, right? We literally have to move things off of our plate in order to pour into the people that matter to us. And so, um, if I had known, man, that's not on me. I went out of my way to make the time, the little time that I had. And I don't want you making time for me if you know it's my last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of where I'm at. So I wouldn't tell anybody. I'd see if they could meet with me. That's great. Um, and if they weren't able to do that, guess who'd get the yeoman share of my time? My grandkids, because I can go get them anytime I want. They're in town. I just say, hey, can I go pick up the grandkids? And my daughter would go, yeah, what? Yeah, that'd be great.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't have any problem with that. So they would probably get the most of my time, my wife, and then probably the kids that are closest to me here. I've got a daughter that lives in Minneapolis, so if I wanted to go see her, that wouldn't be a problem. But I don't know how I'd say, hey, I need you to come home with, like you said, without spilling the beans, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't know. Like that's a great question. Like, do you tell? Do you not tell? Who do you tell? Who do you not tell? I don't know. I just I just feel like if I can do that now and be intentional about it and connect with them, then that'll make it easier if I found out I only had 24 hours. So I don't know. It sounds bad maybe, right? If I had only known. Oh well. I mean, what? None of us has guaranteed time,
No.
right? So
Exactly.
that's the deal. Like why do we wait? Because we get so caught up in um things that I don't want to say they don't matter, but in the light of 100 years, how much stuff are we dealing with that in 100 years no one's even going to care about or know about? And that's not my wisdom. That's wisdom from a guy named Charles Pickens, who was a mentor of mine, and he would ask me that on a regular basis. Kelly, in 100 years, is it going to matter? No, like there's buildings that won't be around in 100 years. So my little thing that I'm so focused on and so intense about, 100 years, it's not going to make a difference anywhere.
Mm.
So I want to make a difference in those areas that are kind of carry impact. So my kids, that's one way. Like what I do with my kids, what I do with my grandkids will carry on to the next generation. That's my hope.
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
know if that helps or not.
well, it does,
Yeah.
because here's the deal. It's interesting that you say that because I always say moments over money.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason, and I'm not trying to say that uh, with this question, what I'm trying to say is if you had that thought of you only have 24 hours to live, it's about not, and we talked about this other day, we need to think about the present, not the future, not the past. The past is a teacher, the future
Mm-hmm.
we can't control. And there's that Adam Sandler movie that I talked to Ricky about the other day, the Fast Forward movie, where you miss those little things. You don't
Yeah.
remember those moments and you've lost them. And what I'm saying is with this question is what makes us a better person? Because you just got done saying we need to carve out that time.
Mm-hmm.
And being the better person is carving out that time. Like when you text me those verses, when Ashley calls me or texts me, when Ricky calls me or texts me, when we just say little things and other people too. You know, and I
Mhm.
called my dad every morning, you know, but or most every morning. But what I'm saying is, what makes us a better person for us and the world? And I think it is if you know that this time on Earth is inevitable. There is an end, but we know that we could go to. Hopefully, I'm good enough to go to a better place. Um, but Ashley and I are different than you and Ricky in the aspect that we have no kids. Our legacy is what we leave for other people's kids, and this is maybe I'm looking at this in a. I don't like to be cynical. So I'm not going to say it. Maybe in a reality sense is that we will be forgotten in a generation. So it's the people that we live right now with that we have to show that we're important. I mean, they're important to us, and maybe we can influence them, and maybe that legacy, that is our legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I like all of this conversation has kind of helped me kind of extrapolate some of what you're because the question that you had asked, Rick, you know, why do we have to, or you know, why is it that this happens? And so I didn't want to respond because the obvious, you know, I think we all know what the obvious answer is, and it's just, well, I'm too busy. I got this, and I got this, and I'm, you know, and again, like you said, memories over money. You know, I think most of our busyness probably has something to do with the paycheck. Uh,
Mhm.
and and to Kelly's point, we just have to be more intentional. You know, it's
Mhm.
yes, there's busy, but there is time. You can make time to spend time with people, and even like you said, it's as simple as just shooting a text. Hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you know, or even, I mean, guaranteed you're spending some of your time scrolling, right? There's got to be something funny or something that you saw. I mean, I got my buddy Frank sends me like 5 or 6 video memes on Instagram a day. You know, I mean, that's my laughter. But then I also get those videos where it's like super motivational, you know, or and some of the ones that he sends me, I'm like, oh, I'm like, man, I should send this to Rick, you know, like, so
Yeah.
there's those things where you kind of pass some of those things forward, even just to get a laugh or whatever it may be. But yet, to Kelly's point, I think that's the best way to answer that question: is we're all busy, we all got stuff going on, but you just got to take that time. You know what I mean? Find something in your day that you can 5 minutes that you can sacrifice. I mean, come on. I mean, sorry, this might sound a little gross, but we all poop probably once a day. I mean, I'm sure the time you're sitting on the toilet, you can send somebody a text.
Yeah, technology's definitely made it easy.
Well, Ashley and Ears would probably disagree with you on that part because I probably do it 3 or 4 times in a day in a hunt. You know.
Yeah, but
Sometimes you
it's
could
kind of
probably
hard to
text.
do. It's kind of hard to do while you're running at the same time, Rick. I mean, you can't run
It's
and
true.
text.
It sure would create a mess.
Oh my god. Sometimes I think in that time frame you might be able to text, I don't know, 10, 12 people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I got times where my
It's
legs go
36
numb.
people
Come
in
on.
a day.
Exactly. Oh,
Oh my gosh.
we don't need
No
to get it
excuses.
Oh,
because Ears has some stories about my some of my escapades in the pooping
Really, you
environment.
oh,
just sent it off the edge, man. You just sent
Yeah,
it
I
right off
know.
the table.
Yeah, you might,
oh man.
Rick. You
I
might
can't
cut
wait.
this out.
Yeah.
It's up to you, buddy. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, all right. But yeah, no. Anyway, we'll get back to. Sorry, but you know, I mean, it. That's I. I don't know when this happened in my life. I maybe it's because when I turned 50. I don't know when I started really thinking within myself about mortality, about being a better person. I think I've always had a caring aspect, but I think really trying to show, and this isn't trying to go to heaven right now. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm trying to change to do that. It's that I want to become the best person I can be to and maybe make a difference in this world. It's like I said, I think there's, I don't know, a reality to know that things are going to happen, and how do you foresee things? I can't look, like we were talking, you can't look into the future. And I don't want to. I
Mm-hmm.
used to. Ellie, I mean, we talked about this in episode 3, but I really wanted Kelly to say this is what's going to happen to you in the future. And he said, you got to be patient. And patience has came to me. I didn't like it, and I don't think anybody does. But I do think that by listening to you and by being a better person to myself, I think you got to get that confidence in yourself that you are good enough and that you deserve the best life that you can give to yourself. And when you realize that, and when you aren't counting on, I'm not counting on any of you to help me or help me have my best life, but I know that you guys are giving me the best of you to help me be the best I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I
That's
need,
why you surround yourself with good people.
well, I need translators sometimes,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is I don't, I'm not codependent on you, you helping me be a better person. I am friends with surrounding myself with good people. And this is what, and this whole thing here has been the premise of every time we ask the last question, everybody says surround yourself with good people. And it's not to, yeah, I'm not codependent, but it's about, I see that Ashley's successful. I see Ricky's successful. I see that you're successful, Kelly. And that just kind of overflows and it comes back onto me. And there's other people too, but then you feel you have the confidence because the people you surround yourself have the confidence, and maybe we're all fooling ourselves at times, but we are better people. You guys are awesome people. And that's why I try to say that in every once a week, at least in one of my posts, is, I love y'all. And I
Mm-hmm.
want you guys to know that. And I want, today's, I said, I don't know if it's the glow of the morning or the sun coming, the first beams of light that make my day better, but you got to decide in all those things, you have to know that that glow or the sunbeam, if somebody's struggling, you need to be one of those to that person, and you might not even know it. So this isn't a monologue, but I just like, I just have these. The problem with me is I have these beliefs, and I really want to have people understand that life is so precious and so short that
Yeah.
we have we need to do the best and be the best people we can.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
there's there's something about coming to terms with your pain, your brokenness, and that you carry. Um, we live in a really broken world, and I just, like, bluntly, I'm blessed to be where I'm at, but I've seen the harsh side of it. And there's some of that we've got to make our way through, and the world has a way of lying to us and telling us that we don't matter, that we're the only one dealing with that kind of pain, or we're the only one dealing with that problem. It has a way of leaving this message in our head that we're not good enough. And I just want people to understand that that's a lie. that they are precious. Like not just their time here, their presence matters. Your presence matters. Your presence in my life, your presence in the lives of people around you, that presence matters. And I'm not just talking about you standing there. I'm talking about the way that you are engaging, the way that you are aware of your surroundings, the way that you present yourself to others. Like our presence matters. And this is like, and I know maybe I'm making a transition here because before we really started this off, and I just want people to know that they matter. They
Yeah.
matter.
Hmm.
Every human life matters, and their presence means something to someone, even if they don't hear it. I go out of my way to speak to people and try to remember their names and say their name and say hi to them, just because you never know. You don't know what they've gone through that day. You don't know what their week looks like. And for me to just recognize their presence might be the thing that saves their life,
Hmm.
right? Like, I don't know if we think of our interactions that way. But as I've gotten older, I've come to believe that I have the ability to recognize someone's presence in this world and give them some validity. And that might just be the thing they need to kick it off for them, right? To get them
Yes.
out of the spiral. So, I just see that, and I want to be present, which means I have to be aware. I have to be engaged in the moment, and I need to realize how I present myself to others, right? So
Yeah.
I call those fingerprints. So, Rick, you've got fingerprints all over my life, man. I mean, we've spent enough life together that I know I've got fingerprints on you. And here's what happens: those fingerprints will end up rubbing off onto someone else if we're doing it the right way, right? If we're engaging and we're present and we're like these lessons that we learn and these little quirks and these little sayings, like it starts to rub off on the people around us. And so now the fingerprint that you've left on me, it's on someone else, from a story I told, from a hunting trip that we went on, or from just hanging out and laughing in the hills looking for sheds, like that stuff matters, and it does get passed on. So I fortunately have kids and have children and grandchildren that I can more readily probably pass it on to, but there are other people in my life that I'm still passing that on to. So like those fingerprints kind of become my legacy.
Hmm.
And I got news for you. If you're engaging people the way you are, you're you're not just a generation from being gone. Like those things are going to be passed on. And the lessons are way more important than the name.
Oh,
Like I
that.
want my kids to remember the lessons more than my name, right?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
want people to remember the lesson more than they do my name, because it wasn't my lesson in the first place. I just was the vehicle or the vessel that passed on that wisdom or that nugget of truth, right?
Mm.
Yep. Because
Yeah.
I worry about my presentation. I don't know. Some days I don't really worry about it because everybody knows, and this we've talked about this too. There's only one label for me, and that's Rick. That's a
Right.
bunch of different things. You know what I mean? So, but
Yeah.
I'm just joking in that aspect because you get what you see, and that's who you get, and
Yeah.
I don't. And all I can say is I'm Rick. I'm not anything else.
No, but that's why we love you, right?
Yeah.
Your presentation
Listen,
is why we all love you.
I had three young men. They're probably in their early 20s. Yeah, early 20s. They went to the Terry Peak shoot, and they came back talking about the two Ricks. And I go, "Well, I know Rick Hansen," and they go, "You know Rick?" And it's like, "Yeah," and they go, "No way," and I'm like, "Yeah, Rick and I went hunting together. You went hunting with Rick?" It's like, yeah. So like the impact that you make is it's the personality, and it's we all have these little quirks, right? We all
Mm.
have them.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so the quirkiness is part of the path, the lineage, the passing it on. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, it's the uniqueness that makes us who we are. So don't worry about the presentation when it's genuine. See, that the presentation must be genuine first before it's anything else. Doesn't have to be perfect, just genuine,
Yep.
real.
Yep. Agreed.
That's why Ricky has the reins. That's why he's a co-host, because he has to pull back on the reins sometimes, because I go way some directions and others, and he pulls me back. And and then my presentation is, like we did that video of, since he's a technological expert for the Don't Die Rusty podcast. When I frustrate him, when I said, isn't that funny? Look at that arrow go, or whatever. Where do I go here?
Yeah, there's the moments where I can't tell if you're joking or you're being serious. So I'm like, wait, okay, is he? And then he kind of starts laughing, and then then I start to pick up on it. But yeah, it's like it's good that he does that too, because I mean, I feel like, having kids has made me a pretty patient individual. Being a leader in our organization, and having to have a lot of younger individuals underneath me, I think that helps kind of develop some patience. And, you know, Rick, I apologize because I'm not trying to lump you in with kids and these younger people that I work with. The point, the point I'm making is that it has helped with my patience level to a heavy degree. And so again, the only frustrating part about it is that I can't be in the room with you to
Yeah.
guide you.
Right.
That's what makes it difficult. But what do you do? We keep at it, we keep at it, and we keep figuring it out, and we keep figuring it out, and it's giving you the tools even to, like, now you've been in a couple of pickles, and then you've been able to navigate it yourself. So again,
Yeah.
it's just being patient and gaining the skills, but we have fun doing it. We wanted people to know that
Yeah.
it's not all.
Yeah.
There are some struggles that go with it, but at the same time, we can laugh, we can look back on it, and we can laugh at stuff too. So,
And that's when we all get together and tell Rick stories
yeah.
Right.
once a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just, like, to go back to, I want to go back to what we were talking about just a little bit earlier, because I had a thought, and it was like, it's kind of like, I feel like having these conversations, Rick, and I know you wanted to kind of get back to some of this because we've had a lot of guests, and so some of the guests that we have kind of pull away from the philosophical conversations that we have. And
Mhm.
so, but I think that's people just the reminder needs to be out there. Like Kelly had said, be intentional. Like you had said, like, why, like, it's really simple. Why do we do this? Why do we have to understand that relationships are the most important things in our lives? It's, why I try to go to church every Sunday, because, it's just like, and then they say you should, dive into the gospel daily, because you can very quickly slip, and so it's like a constant, you need that constant reminder. You need that constant thing in your life that's telling you, hey, make sure you text those people in your life. Hey, make sure you understand that relationships are the most important thing. You know what I mean? Like, so don't let that job or that, little bit of money you can put in the bank jeopardize that friendship or that relationship that you have. So I think that what we're doing is part of the answer.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how do we get people to come in and listen.
Well, and that's my. Sometimes I think we have something to really say to a lot of people, and it just is frustrating. Like, you really want to say, you need to listen to this episode because it affected my life, or
Hmm.
whatever, and because it's like Saturday night, I was laying on the side of a mountain. I was watching a water hole because it's 90 degrees out or so, and I was elk hunting, and I sat there for 2 hours in the most beautiful, peaceful setting, and and nothing against the church part, Kelly, but that was the most peaceful talk I've, because you do have those talks with
Mm-hmm.
God, and you have those talks with yourself, and those are the times where you are introspective. That's when, like I was, when I started this thing out, and when I started this conversation out in thinking about this stuff, that's where that went is, where is our life going if we don't try to make ours better and others people's at the same time, maybe a little better. And it's not being pushy. It's about my here, and you guys can tell me, like, I'm holding myself to a high standard of living because I figure I'd rather I want to lead by example, not by just talking here. That's why I wake up every morning. That's why I put this out. I mean, there's days that, like you were talking on the mountain, that you were tired. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and you said, "Should I get out of bed?" And there's days I said, it's freaking raining out. Well, right now it's 45-mile-an-hour winds and raining outside. And when Ricky was being serious there, and Ashley and I looked at each other laughing a while ago, is because we heard something tip over and we don't know what it is. But I still go out and at least go. I feel like I'm somewhat Lieutenant Dan, and saying, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to fight Mother Nature right now or whatever. But that's, and it's not that you need to go. I'm not saying the workout stuff or the other stuff. It's about the mental clarity. It's about the spiritual clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I was thinking? I was thinking on that mountain, and laying in that meadow. I mean, I was up on the side of the hill, but watching this little spring, and I was thinking, thank God that I believe, because if I died right here, I'd be happy. But the other thing is, I was feeling bad for people that don't believe. And if you died right now, you'd go black. You know what I mean? The lights shut off.
Yeah.
But I believe that I'm going somewhere. I'm hoping that I'm going somewhere better in that aspect. I don't want to be Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, and we're all going to hell in the end, kind of thing. I hope I'm going to a better place than that. But those are the places that you think and you say, you know what, I have, because I know this, and Ricky and I talked about this yesterday, because all four of us believe in a higher power, in God. And if we go in these directions on some of our episodes, I have no problem with that, because it's the way of the world and that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, Ashley and I have had these conversations about religion. You and I definitely have had these. And
Yeah.
in in this whole thing, in this whole conversation, and with Ricky too, we have found that higher calling, that calling from the heavens, we'll say, and we are making this world a better place by doing what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we can do. And that's why I appreciate it, because I think there's people that don't realize that they need something until it's too late. And I'm thankful for the hard and the trouble that I've gone through. I mean, and I'm not certainly not knocking anybody, but thank you for putting me in those positions, to some of the people that have put me there. Because if I wouldn't have found those dark, I think Ashley and I were talking about this last night. Because I think that when we realize death, people, unless they're close to you, some people still don't realize that there's an end. Because it's
Mm.
not me. It's not close to my family. It's not affecting me. And then we were also talking about going, all of us, and I know all of us, have gone to the deepest, darkest places in our lives. And we are all on this episode right now looking at each other, smiling because we have found that higher power, we found God, and we are a better people for it. And now we're surrounding each other with love, confidence, and hope. And you know what? Hope is the biggest thing in this world that will get you through.
Mm.
Is there?
I don't know how if you could, especially that last sentence. I don't know if there's anything else you can add to that, right? Like, um, we we really push. I push here hope, healing, and love. We want to be a people of hope, a place of healing, and a church of love. And here's the deal. Like you mentioned church earlier, and I just have to kind of go back and address this a little bit. Church isn't a place. Church is a people. We're the body of Christ. It's people, right? So it's the presence of people. And if that's the case, if it's all about presence and the presence of people in the world coming together, unifying for a cause, which for me it's Jesus, right? So that's the cause. I think that Jesus, the word tells me Jesus is the light, he's the life, so he's the hope. So for me, that's the message that I preach is I want you to have hope. And the best way to find that is Jesus. Now, I love what you were talking about sitting by that water hole and you having this conversation with God. Uh, what if, Rick, that was a glimpse of heaven? What if heaven's not this place, but it's the presence of God forever? Right? Like
Yeah.
I want us to think about relationship that way. Because the truth is, as much as the Old Testament and some denominations preach law and rules and don't do's, and Jesus came to show us it was all about relationship. In John 14, he says, I'm going to go away and prepare a place, and I will come get you so that you can be where I am. He wants that relationship. So I try to think of it that way, and I try to share with people that way that it's about God's presence. And we teach this. God is ever present. There's not a place on this planet you can go, he doesn't exist. His spirit is what holds things together. And this kind of sounds like Star Wars, what I'm about to say with the Force, but he's in everything and through everything, and he's what keeps this world from going spinning off into the void. It's his spirit. Because it's his plan. He's the creator. So, I don't want to go too far off track here, but you're bringing the preacher out of me, right? This is what I live for. Like if I have one thing I could teach my kids is that there is a God. He loves you. You matter to him. You matter to him so much. He sent his son to die for you. He loves you more than life itself. And his presence is always there. That's a promise he makes. And there's one place in the universe he doesn't exist. We call that hell. And he was there and left. And it was never meant for human beings. It was meant for those angels that chose to rebel. And we forget that, right? Like when we hear people talk about it, um, there's different attitudes towards it. There's different views of it, but that's basically what that is the absence of God. And I don't want that in my life. I want God all over my life. So that when he leaves his fingerprints on me, I get to leave them on somebody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done preaching.
About time. Rick, Rick,
Your
Rick had to,
sermons always go long. No.
Rick had to pry it out of you.
If you ask my board members, they tell you, yeah.
No, I love that. You're always so insightful, and I wanted to point out that, what Rick had said right at the end before you started talking too. I feel like that really summed up the episode in just a few words very well. And again, just so much about, like you said, what Jesus always said is relationships and love, and that's what's important. And so that, I think that's one of the big focuses, and when you're only got 24 hours left, what are you going to do with them? You're going to seek out those relationships, the ones that matter,
The ones that matter.
the ones that are important, the people, the good people that you surround yourself with.
Yes, I love that. And the one thing I want to get is when you said, "Is this heaven?" When I was sitting there, it's like, you know what? I thought of Kevin Costner in "Is This Heaven?" And what was that? In the baseball movie,
Field of Dreams.
Field
Yeah.
of Dreams. Is this heaven? Yeah. And I think everybody has their own heaven. In mine's on the side of a mountain, in seeing that beautiful place and being at peace. Mm-hmm. I mean, and not that I'm at peace at anywhere else, but if I had to if I had the choice, that's where I'd want to breathe my last breath. And I know, and that's not, and I'm certainly not talking, and this is Suicide Prevention Month, and I'm not talking about suicide. I'm talking about, I don't want to be in a hospital.
Right.
I want to breathe that pine. I want to breathe the sage or wherever I am. And I want to maybe feel the last glow of the sunset, or depends upon when it was, but to feel the last glow of that on my face. And I want to close my eyes and see where I go then, but yeah. But anyway, you have anything, Ashley or Kelly?
Well, I just real quick. I'll try real quick.
You don't have to be quick.
Guess what? This is a long form thing. This is called a podcast.
Okay, that's great.
Preach.
So I'm on this hunt, and I missed this deer. I worked real hard to get to him. It was up and down, and finally got to a point on a bench where I could see him feeding in some bulbrush, and he had two smaller ones with him, and I got a little bit nervous because I thought one of the smaller ones had seen me, and I'm standing as still as I possibly can, and he comes into an opening. He's broadside. I hit him at 52 yards, and I'm like, that's doable. I can make that shot, and I get drawn back, and they all stop because they saw the movement. And he's broadside in a window, and I'm taking the shot, and I see the arrow go off, and my heart just breaks when I see it hit. Those leaves start falling. When you know what happened. It was terrible, and my heart just sunk. And I went and looked for my arrow half-heartedly, and kind of followed them, and that where they were at went into a hayfield on top, and then there was a saddle that connected these two draws that was covered in bulbrush. And I just sat down, and I'm kind of having my pity party,
I've been there.
Yeah, and the sun's going down. It's a beautiful place, man. Like the beauty that just of sunset is it's sunrise and sunset, man. I just love those two moments in the day. Like it's just something about the colors and the change in the light, and so I'm sitting there and having this little pity party, And I hear this voice in my head, and it says, you're missing some stuff. Well, what am I missing? Look around you, man. You're missing out because you're throwing a little pity party. You're in a funk. Why? Look at where you're at. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, this doe comes out with her fawn, and they walk within 12 yards of me.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I got to get over this. I'm
Yep.
missing out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing the moment because I'm looking at the past,
Yep.
right? And I think we do that. We miss the moment because we're focused on the past. We miss the moment because maybe we're anxious about the future. And I just truly believe we've got to soak up every moment we've got. And then the message came to my head like anything can happen. Are you
Yep.
ready for the moment? So that place where you're having those conversations with God, he's sitting right there with you and he's watching everything that's going on and he's trying to get your attention. Am I willing to listen? Am I willing to pay attention? And here's what I've learned. If I will listen to him, he will show me who it is I need to connect with. And then he will help me to carve out that time to connect with him. Because he's always speaking. Am I listening?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yep. Yep.
there's so many answers to this question, but I just feel like we get caught up in again the things that just don't really matter. It's stuff instead of people most of the time.
Yep.
And Ricky, uh, it's interesting because I mean, all of us are archers too, and we've seen more probably. We've seen more indoor stuff than a lot of, but I mean, people, Kelly and Ashley probably, but what you're talking about, Kelly, is interesting because what I've read and what I've seen is, you know what? Say we're shooting indoors and you shot that arrow and you shot a 4 or you shot a 9 or whatever, and you can't get that arrow back, but you know what? You shoot the next arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're saying. We can't dwell on the last shot or you're not going to make any better shots.
Right. Yep.
And you have vapor trail strings because they're the best in the country.
True.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. For the record, everybody that has a paid promotion, Rick did get paid to say that.
Oh,
But
That's
here,
excellent.
we've talked about this for an hour, a little over an hour. But I'll be last because we've done. But you know what? Let's start with Kelly. No, let's start with Kelly. Yeah, we'll start with Kelly and go to
Okay.
Ashley and then Ricky. But what's the good life right now to you? I mean, because I think it's ever changing. The good life changes daily, maybe weekly, monthly, yearly. What's a good life to Kelly right now?
Um, family, fall colors, the outdoors, breathing in that air every day. That's a good life. Focusing on those things. Family, the fall, outside, and breathing the good air. Taking that next step.
I like
Hey,
that.
yeah.
very nice.
How about you, Ashley? What's a good life to Ashley Kurtenbach?
Well, I mean, you can't be in this time of year without mentioning hunting. We wait all year
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So it really is, I always look forward to finally getting a chance to be present outside, and that's usually bow hunting, right? So whether it's in a tree stand, spot and stalking, oh man, I just love it so much. So that's obviously part of it, but it's always relationships with me. it's always the people around me. I'm always looking like, when do I get to see you next? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's always about people, the people in my life for me. Always. That's every day. And honestly, right now too, you know how busy I've been. I got a lot going on, but really trying to do my best. And I'm not saying being the best at your job that's part of it too, but I've really focused on being like, okay, what's the best decision here? Here I'm confronted with a problem. I've been really trying to take a step back and be like, okay, just it's not meant to be. Like, I'm just going to do my best.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been one thing recently. If you talk about it changing, for me, that's right now, that's where it's at. A lot, almost daily.
Mm.
How about you, Ricky?
Well, the good life to me is this box I just got in the mail the other day with this brand new hat that I got. I suppose you can't even see it because there's like a long delay, but it's a newer "Don't Die Rusty" hat that Lindsay made for me. But no, I mean honestly, mine hasn't changed much since the last time that question was asked to me, and I think that was pretty close to when we first started. And just family. I mean, watching my daughter grow, it's like one of the most amazing things that I've ever witnessed. And, and Coda is maturing rapidly. He is turning into a young man child very quickly.
Mm.
And pretty soon he's going to be able to beat me up. So I got to watch what I say. Yeah, he's becoming a basketball star. He's going to a new school. He's loving it. He's making new friends. So that's really awesome to see. Me and Emma are currently building a shelter in the backyard, so that's pretty exciting. And of course, it is hunting season is here, and so lots of planning for the upcoming North Dakota hunt in November.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know if you know that, Kelly. I drew my any deer tag,
Oh.
so I'll be bow hunting mule deer, and we're gonna make a film. So we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of irons in the fire, trying to figure out companies that want to participate and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much been the good life, and then just having these conversations. I mean, getting on here and chatting with all these amazing people, and yeah, that's the good life right there, man.
Awesome.
and and for me, I mean, it's funny because I feel like uh, this time of year, I love the fact that I get to go out into the woods and I get to climb mountains and I get to go see animals, and it's different than taking pictures. It's different than anything you can experience. But when you're sitting there on the side of a mountain and you get to think in pure, here's what I love the most, and it's the whispers of the pines, and it's the quietness, the mountain quiet. I'm saying it's not totally quiet, but when you have no cell phone service, you have no television, no computer, you're in total silence, just in your mind. That's the good life right there. And
Mm-hmm.
then relationship wise, of course, Cindy. And it's funny because you know Ashley's one of my pretty good friends, and she's going to come up there and go hunting with me too, and Ben and maybe Dylan too. But then it won't be quiet. But that's all right. Anyway, but
It won't be.
Wow.
but there'll be laughs, and that's where we're talking about surrounding yourself with good people
Be a lot
Yeah.
of memories. Come
and making
on.
memories. But
The green suit might come out, huh?
you never know what might come out. Yeah, there may be Sasquatch. Here I'll tell you a story about last weekend, and I came home and I told Cindy about this. So I, I called her before I was having supper, which I'm waiting for my mountain house to get hydrated. And I sat there and ate it in a lawn chair, and I'm sitting by my tent and everything's cool. I'm looking up at the stars and I took some pictures of the stars and just enjoying the quiet. And then I get into the bed, into my tent, and I read a couple chapters and I shut off the light. And this is no kidding. About 1 minute after I shut off my light, I heard footsteps right next to my tent. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what is this? Because this is why I like going with people, because they would see this, but I'm the most fearful of a female Sasquatch trying to jump in my tent. I don't know what
Female Sasquatch.
but I don't know what was out there, but it left. But I was just like one of those things, like 1 minute.
Sure, it wasn't an Olympic mouse.
It wasn't a mouse. I had that the night before, but it was either a raccoon or something, But it was just funny how you can hear your senses are so much better after not looking at your phone and not hearing anything, and how you hear things, and I like that high sense. So anyway,
as long as I get to sleep.
Yeah. but I you know what, I want to thank all of you here. I thank Ricky every week for reining me and keeping the technological ineptness, and he's teaching me, so I'm becoming less inept.
I don't know if I'd say you're inept.
No, I'm learning slowly, we'll say.
Student,
but
you're a disciple of the technological
wizard.
podcasting
exactly
things.
But you guys have all influenced my life, and this is why I want to have these conversations and with the good people that I know, and I appreciate each and every one of you in all different ways, you know what I mean? And I want to thank you guys I want to thank Ricky for we got this going, and I want to thank you, Kelly, because this is the second time you've been on, and I want to thank Ashley because she's one of my best friends here that will come on. And what I love about this stuff is that we can talk in depthly, because sometimes I miss college just because I like the conversations. You had conversations, and now this is why I love this podcast stuff, because I get to have these conversations that are energize me. And I want to thank you guys for that. And I want to say one thing to the audience. I want to say, if you listen to this point, please get on our social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, and leave us a message and tell us what you would do. Or, let me know, because this is interesting to me. This is interesting stuff. And the second thing that I'm thinking about here is, what do you guys think about doing like one of these once every 2 months? You know what I mean? Like in our 10, usually we do a 10 episode and we do a recap, but I have another one. I'm just going to start reading this book, and maybe we could read it kind of get together, but it's called The Extinction of Experience. And we can talk about experiences and how ours haven't gone extinct. I think that would be fun to have this conversation, because I think we have a good group here.
Yeah, I like that idea. I just want to say, Kelly, thanks. Always a pleasure, man. I feel like I need to talk to you more often. So I love the idea that Rick is pitching. I like seeing what you're doing on Facebook, so I check it out quite often, and so I always appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for being here and for your time today. Ashley, as always, amazing. I even just having your laughter in the background is amazing. Like, so, but always super fun seeing you and hanging out with you. So again, I hope we can do this more often.
Yeah.
Thank you all for
Yeah,
being
agreed.
It's up to you guys, but I'm just pitching it to you guys.
I'd love to do it. I'm honored you guys would even think of me and invite me to do something like that. Like, yeah, I think it'd be good. Like, I like a good conversation, like Rick, right? Like, you don't get the opportunity to have good conversations very often. So,
I was going to say the same thing. Thank you guys so much for including me. Rick and I have these conversations, I don't know, weekly, I feel like. So I thoroughly enjoy being able to talk to this kind of depth with people. So thank you for having me.
Yep. Well, don't die, Rusty Nation. Keep chasing your dreams, living your best life. And of course, don't die, Rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts, Rick Hansen and Ricky Brule. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hansen and Ricky Brule. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.